Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Annalisa and I'm going to be doing 4 Christmas related book tags today. As you can see, I've had a little decorate and I have finally had enough energy to do a little more dressing up for my videos, so I'm very happy about that. If this looks like a grandma sweater, it's because it is. It was my grandma's. It's just, you know, it's a blue wintry thing. And I wanted to wear blue and be wintry today, so that's what's happening. So I'm going to be doing the Gingerbread House book tag, the Christmas Songs book tag, which there are 2 of, and I'm going to be doing the one made by that girl Audrey. And then I'm going to be doing the Humbook Tag, and also the Booktube Giving Tag. And I will put links below of time codes if there's a particular tag that interests you the most. Before I get started, I want to let you know that I would like to send out Christmas and other winter holiday themed cards or just winter themed cards this year because I have them, and I also have stamps that I bought to support the post office a couple of months ago, but I also just really enjoy sending and receiving mail. One of my friends, Anna, came up with a really good way to have people sign up for that, giving their addresses and like what they want to be called and what holiday they want mentioned, and I'm gonna link my own version of that form. So if you would like a wintry card just to, you know, have something cheerful to open in the bleak winter months, the sooner you sign up, the more likely it will arrive before January. So let's get into the tags. So the Gingerbread House book tag was created by a reading warrior, and there are 3 sections. One is about the construction of the gingerbread house, one is about the candy decorations, one is about the frosting, and one is about the gingerbread people. The first one for construction is The Walls, a book that had a good setup / beginning but ended up being plain. So for this, I decided to pick Cinderella Is Dead because I really love the concept and I really love the ideas for the characters and the ideas for the plot and the world building. It just wasn't executed super well in my opinion, just in my opinion, and I know it was really special for a lot of people and I definitely don't want to ruin that for anyone, so I'm not going to talk about it at length, but I personally felt that the writing itself, the prose, wasn't so great, but that's to be expected for a debut, so I look forward to reading more from this author who clearly has really great ideas. Question 2 is The Door, a good book to serve as an entryway into your favorite genre for others. And I had a really hard time with this because I have been a reader of my favorite genres for such a long time that, like, it's hard for me to put myself into the brain of someone who like only likes fantasy a little bit. It was really hard, so I decided to go for introducing someone to nonfiction who highly likes fiction with The Cat Who Came for Christmas, which is up here but I can't reach it, and that is a book that is mostly nonfiction, but it is told with prose and words that make it seem very fiction-y and ascribe a lot of personality and emotion and very human-like thoughts to this cat who came to this curmudgeon for Christmas and wormed his way into this grumpy old man's life. But the grumpy old man is a really good writer and is really funny, and he also talks about other aspects of his life, like that he is a animal rights activist, and so he talks about various things that they have done working for animals' rights, and so that mixed with the everyday story of the cat becoming important to him and the way that all the stories are told in a very self-deprecating humor type of way, I feel like could really help people who aren't into nonfiction have a nonfiction read that is still really interesting and engrossing and tells a story. Then we have The Roof, a best last book in a series to top off the series like a roof. And I have found a lot of books that had really good series endings and some that have not. I love the ending of the Elatsoe series. I love the ending of the Tahereh series. Naomi Novik felt like it was really stressful to try to come up with a series ender for that one, but I think she pulled it off amazingly. But the one that I picked for this is the ending of the Fairyland series, The Girl Who Raced Fairyland All the Way Home, and that is because it gives me so many wonderful feelings, and things were in such a bad place at the end of book 4 of 5, but this book really took care of everything and finished off all the plot points in a really satisfying way, and also came up with like really new interesting stuff that I didn't see coming, and was very satisfying with all the character development, so I'm really happy with that book. Then we have the candy decorations. First, Peppermint Swirls, a book full of twists and turns. Deathless Divide. That book is divided into 2 parts after a big plot twist that makes the second part into a very different story from the first part. And even in the first part, there are lots of secrets being kept that, as they are gradually revealed, make things turn out to be totally different than what we thought. I highly recommend that book if you haven't read it. It is the second in the duology of a book I can't remember the name of, but the first book was also really good, but not as good as Deathless Divide. So if you read Dread Nation and are kind of meh about it, but like the concept and the characters, the second book is even better in my opinion. Lots of feminism, lots of queerness, lots of black representation, lots of moral quandaries, and some really good zombie fighting action. Then we have number 5, Gumdrops, which is what is the most generic book, or the book with the most amount of tropes. And I could pick several for this because I read a lot of romances this year, but I picked Cold-Hearted Rake because it just didn't wow me at all, and I had read a bunch of the other books in the same series first, and A Cold-Hearted Rake is the first book of the series and is also the most boring book of the series in my opinion. I really like the rest of the books in the Ravenels series. Then we have Licorice, the longest book you have on your shelf, and for me that one is A Turn of Light. It is 856 pages, I think, whereas my second longest is Echo War, which is slightly over 700. I used to have a one bind-up edition of The Lord of the Rings, which was like 11 or 1200, but it's gone now. Then we have number 7, Frosting, a book that holds your favorite genre together, aka the most underrated book in your favorite genre. And that's also hard because I like a lot of the medium or well-hyped books in fantasy, and I haven't had a huge amount of luck finding underhyped ones. If they're not hyped in general, they're usually hyped for the specific representation they have, like Tarnished Are the Stars is not super hyped in science fiction circles, but it is super hyped in ace rep circles. And there are some books that are underhyped in general, but might be very well hyped for their subgenres, like steampunk. I haven't heard a whole lot from the wider sci-fi fantasy people about Soulless, but I think in steampunk circles it is quite well known. So this one was hard to pick for, but I decided to reach back to my childhood and go for one of the ones I haven't heard talked about on here very much, and that is Key to Rondo, which is a portal fantasy of a somewhat unusual kind in my opinion, written by Emily Rada, who wrote all the Del Toro books as well as a couple of other series that I enjoy. And I think it is a really inventive portal fantasy and really interesting, and it is middle grade, but even the people who read middle grade that I follow haven't mentioned it much. So, and I also haven't read it in a very long time, so it might not be as good as I remember, but I think that's my most underhyped fantasy that I know of. And then number 8 is the Gingerbread People. Building the house is the point, but the Gingerbread People make a great touch. Name a book with the best supporting characters, or that is highly character driven. And for that I had several that I could pick. One is the A Court of Mist and Fury, etc. series. I really love the characters of that series. Don't care that much about the plot. World building, I like quite a bit, but it's mostly the characters. Then there's also this book called Lila that I read a long time ago this year that is basically entirely character driven. There is some plot, but it's still mostly about the relationships between the characters, and it was very sweet and relaxing to me. So that is that tag. I'm going to tag people at the end so that I can do it in one blob. Next is the Christmas Songs book tag, created by that girl Audrey. First song, All I Want for Christmas Is You, a fictional couple who would do anything for each other, and that's really easy to answer with Eve and Rourke from the In Death series by J.D. Robb. Then we have Last Christmas, I Gave You My Heart, the most heartbreaking end to a relationship, and spoilers for the Gilded Wolves. I will put a time code you can skip to, but I have only read to the end of the Gilded Wolves. I haven't read the Silver Serpent, so I have no idea what happens to the relationship in that book or what will happen in book 3, but the way that Gilded Wolves ends with breaking up our relationships is very distressing to me, which is why I'm going to wait till the 3rd book is out to read the 2nd book so that I can spoil myself and know whether it ends as happily as I would like. Then, The Most Wonderful Time of the Year, a book that brings you joy every time you read it, and I have a lot of rereads, so a lot of books bring me joy when I reread them, but I picked Heart's Blood because that's one of my good comfort reads that is very cozy and is all about a scribe working in a library and falling in love with a Beast character because it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling. Those are some of my favorites, and it's also Irish, which is also one of my favorite things. Number 4 is Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, a childhood favorite, and I picked Avalon, Quest for Avalon, Web of Magic. There are like 3 series set in this magical world, and it has got 3 main mages who run like a wildlife sanctuary for magical creatures who are running from a big evil guy who is taking over lots of different magical worlds. And it is really cool and interesting. I love the magic system and the characters and all the world building of the different magical creatures and the different magical societies that haven't been conquered yet, but I haven't reread it in a long time, so the nostalgia will be strong when I finally get to it. Winter Wonderland, a book with a beautiful cover, and let me see if I can do this without mucking everything up. But I love the cover of Furthermore. It's got all these warm colors and it's got really accurate cover to like what goes on in the book. It has all these different elements that are actually from the book. The characters actually look like they're described, and the main character's dress and bracelets are like they're described, and it's so pretty. And it has a nice spine to pretty up my shelves. Then The Nutcracker, a classic everyone hypes, and in my circles, Jane Austen is very highly hyped, and it is also deserved. You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch, a character you desperately want to be killed, and for that I will pick all the people who run the government and generally the bad guys from An Unkindness of Ghosts. There's a bunch of really, really terrible people in that book, and I would like all of them to not exist anymore. Please Come Home for Christmas, a character you either thought or knew was going to die, please no spoilers, and for that I purposely spoiled myself for everyone that dies in Harry Potter because I didn't want to have my feelings hurt, and that is why I never read the series. Number 9, Santa Claus is Coming to Town, a book you are anticipating or are anticipating the release of. And for that, Elatsoe I heard about just before it was published and pre-ordered it, so I didn't have to wait very long, but I was very excited when I heard about a indigenous authored book that also had ASREP and also had a really pretty cover. Then Silent Night, recommend a translated work. All manga, basically. I love manga. There are several series I like Kami-sama Kiss and Ancient Mage's Bride, but there's a lot of manga out there and a lot of it's really good and you should read it. And almost all of it is translated because it's a Japanese literary art form, and so they tend to write it in Japanese. Next is the Booktube Giving Tag, created by Elliot Brooks, and I was tagged in this by Angela of the Literature Science Alliance, which is really sweet of her, and Elliot Brooks made this to support charitable giving in the Christmas times, and the charity that she picked is the Phoenix Children's Hospital, which I will link below. The first question is, what's a book you would give everyone if you could? And that's really hard because everybody has different reading tastes. So in the past I've sometimes picked nonfiction for prompts like these because even if they don't totally enjoy it, it's still like good for them to read it and to like know things. But today I'm going to pick The Witch Doesn't Burn in this one by Amanda Lovelace. This is a poetry collection. It is a angry feminist work about figuring out how to be angry and how to work through anger and how to stand up for yourself and work through the pain that the patriarchy has caused to women as a whole. and was really powerful to me, has inspired me to make several pieces of art, and I think it would bring awareness to some people who aren't aware of these things and can also help with processing the anger that comes from that. But definitely massive trigger warnings, so I wouldn't want to give it to anyone who would be hurt by reading about that content. Fortunately, the book has a handy list of trigger warnings at the start of it. What's a book you couldn't give a rat's hiney about? And I picked The Queen of Nothing. I just went through the Goodreads award choice list because I knew there were a lot of books on there I didn't care about, and found that one that a lot of other people do care about, and no shade to you, it's just that whole series is not up my alley. Given the holidays are coming up, what's a book you hope someone buys for you? I would really like a nice paperback edition of A Song Below Water. I don't even know if those are out yet, but I would really like it. I would also take a hardcover. But it's such a gorgeous book, and it would definitely be a reread for me. I loved it very much. But right now they're all expensive and not used because it's a fairly new release. What's a book or series you've given up on? And for that I picked the R.A. Salvatore's series about dark elves. I read like 4 of them in a row and really enjoyed them. I think they're great, but I asked my brother for spoilers about what would happen in future in the series, and some things I don't like are going to happen, so I'm not going to read those. Best fight scenes ever, and really cool characters in my opinion. Also nice world building. Number 5, who's a character you wish an author would give more time to? And I think she got adequate time, but I would read an entire book from the perspective of Sophia from Gilded Wolves, because she's the autistic character and I love those perspectives. Well, who's a character you wish an author would give less time to? And for that I picked someone from a book I just finished reading, which is Henry from Heartbeat Braves, because I really dislike his character. It's a dual perspective, as a lot of romances are, but he's just a really annoying character that I dislike. And if I could fill in the reasons that he didn't have a job by imagining rather than hearing from his perspective why he doesn't, I would have given him a lot less credit and the benefit of the doubt, whereas hearing his reasons is like, yeah, you're just a jerk. Number 7, if you had to give up almost all of your books, which ones would you keep? And those would be the Del Toro series. I took forever collecting those, and they are very nostalgic, and I am a collector. I get a great deal of joy from having physical possessions. So those would all be really important to me. 8, what's the best book or bookish thing you've ever been given? And my mom gave me a Cats and Lord of the Rings shirt, which I have worn in a couple of videos, but I will try to put in something to show you that. Number 9, what's a book someone gave you that you wish you could give right back? Which I'm gonna skip because I've never had a book given me that I didn't want. I don't have like passive aggressive people who give me like something or something for dummies, or who like give me self-help books I don't want. People generally only give me books when they know I'm gonna like it. Plus also I feel supremely emotionally attached to anything that anyone gives me, because I don't know why, but even if I don't actually like it, I will feel super attached to it because somebody gave it to me. Number 10, what's a time in a book the character was given something really meaningful? And I picked in Wild Magic. This girl gifts this boy some little horse figurines with wings that were very precious in her childhood, but she gives them to him to like be comfort to him, and I think that's really sweet. Then we have the Humbook Tag created by Chapter Kate, and I was also tagged by her, and I really enjoy her content. This is about complaining about books and book tropes and authors and stuff, so if you're not into negativity, even in a fairly lighthearted way, you can skip this last tag, but I sometimes like a rant. So the questions are: 1, what kind of cover art immediately turns you off a book? And that is art like this, where there's just a lot of nakedness going on. Like romance books that like don't have a lot of nakedness and they're like tasteful and just have a lady in a dress. It's like, oh, that's so nice. Like, I know there's probably sex scenes in it, but I don't have to be confronted with that every time I pick it up on my Kindle. In addition to being sex repulsed, I'm also nudity repulsed, so it makes me super uncomfortable to look at. Anyway, number 2, what do you hate most on a book cover not related to design? And she mentioned not liking seeing like now made into a movie written on there, and I don't like those, and I also don't like most everybody I've heard complain about the books that print stickers on, like it's this much % off, or it's this type of book, or all the horrible little things they put on printed on stickers that you can't get off. Then 3, when reading a synopsis, what could make you want to yeet the book across the bookstore? And much like Kate, I also don't like anything to do with mental asylums because she's right, they're rarely done well and also quite triggering for me personally. But I don't like things that say they're gritty or dark because even though I've liked books that have those elements, if that's like a selling point, it's probably too much for me. And also get famous plots. If it says that somebody's trying to get on TV or make it in as a music person and become famous that way, I'm just not interested in that at all. Then number 4, what trope makes you want to scream into the abyss? And I picked the one where you forgive abusive people because it's good for you or whatever, when sometimes it's really not good for you to let go of things that people never apologized for. And there's a difference between forgiving and forgetting, where sometimes just forgetting about the person entirely is better for you than like pretending everything's okay. What book induces rage the moment it's mentioned in your presence? And there was a book that I reviewed for an indie author a couple of years ago that he then posted my review for his fans to complain about, and so fortunately I've never seen this book again since then. I don't think it's very popular, and so I don't remember the name of it, but if I ever saw it again, I'm sure I would recognize it, and I would be reminded of that incident and be very upset. What could someone say when recommending a book to you that could break your trust in them? It broke my heart. I see a lot of people posting on social media about a book that really hurt them or made them not cry. Crying is sometimes okay, but like broke them, and I put that on the list of books that I don't want to read because I'm not in it for the emotional turmoil. What author would you like to fight? And there are a couple of authors who have upset me through various social media things, but there's also much smaller things, like someone who decided to take on Nora Roberts for no reason, and somebody who put seizures in their book, and then when people who actually have seizures complain about it, not to her, just posting about it, she decided to quote tweet them and tell them that they had no right to be upset. And so I'm never going to read either of those people's books, but I have no desire to like name and shame them because that's too much bother for me. 8, what character would you like to drop kick? All of the adult characters from My Life as an Ice Cream Sandwich. That was about a neurodivergent little girl who was basically told throughout the book that she had to mask and pretend not to be who she is, and that all her relationships with people not being good was entirely her fault, and not in any way them being mean to her because she was different. Number 9, if Goodreads was a person, what would you bully them for? And Kate also put a caveat in that she doesn't agree with bullying. This is a hypothetical, funny tag, but I would make fun of them for the Goodreads Choice Awards. They are really bad and everyone knows it, and they don't even try. 10, if you could ban anything trivial from all books forever, what would it be? And me personally, I really don't like the makeover trope, which happens more in movies because it's a visual thing, but sometimes also happens in books where there's a girl who looks like a regular person and not a pretty person. And then she gets made over and suddenly her life is so much better, and she gets the guy who didn't care about her when she looked like a regular person. So I would like to never read that again. So I tag these people for any of these that they want to do, whichever takes their fancy, but I would especially like to see Kelsey Reed's version of the Humbook Tag. She has some very good sass. I would also like to tag Naomi from Naomi's Bookshelf, Yvette from Book Cave, the other Christine who reads, Julie H, and Leslie from The Nerdy Narrative. These are all lovely booktubers that I follow. I highly recommend you check them out. Have a very happy holidays, whatever you're celebrating. I might have another video out before Christmas, but Hanukkah is going on while I film this, so happy Hanukkah. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!